Believe, but they are true. Tyrone Bowman live. A man who was treated for cancer couldn't pay the bill to the hospital. So instead of showing compassion, they decided to sue him. This story was recorded on NBC News, and the headline reads, "When he couldn't pay for cancer treatment, the hospital sued." In North Carolina, a state hit by the national crisis of medical debt, Terry Belk has spent 20 years struggling to get free of, quote, "this anvil I'm dragging around," close quote. So is this what it has come to in America? When people don't have the money for treatment, instead of finding other ways to get it, you sue them. According to NBC News, in 2012, Terry Belk's beloved wife Sandra died after a years-long battle with breast cancer. The car salesman in Charlotte, North Carolina, had quit work to take care of his wife, and the bills for her treatment were more than he could pay, even with health insurance. Adding to his burden, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer that year, generating additional bills for his own treatment. Atrium Health, the nonprofit hospital treating the Belks, pursued them aggressively for their debts. Without fully understanding the consequences, Belk said he agreed to what's known as a deed of trust, under which the hospital will receive roughly $23,000 when he sells his home, an amount that will cover outstanding amounts owed for his wife's treatments. Quote, "We weren't trying to abscond from the bills," close quote, he said. Quote, "I wanted to pay, but I couldn't." This is almost hard to believe that this is happening here in America, but it is. But it is. Thousands upon thousands of people just don't have the money for bills. They can barely pay rent. They can barely pay mortgage. They have to make a decision between buying groceries or paying for their medicine. And now a man has been sued because he couldn't pay the bill for the cancer treatments that he and his wife had to get. I'm quite sure that hospitals write off debt every single day and are governmentally reimbursed for it. And if this is a nonprofit organization, then they definitely should not be suing someone because they cannot afford to pay the bills. So what happens if, God forbid, a child has cancer? Would you sue the family of the child because the child has cancer and the family could not pay for the bills? The late Danny Thomas founded an organization. He founded a hospital. The name will come back to me in a moment. You never receive a medical bill. You never have to pay. The late Jerry Lewis, God bless his memory, with the muscular dystrophy and the billions of dollars that he raised for the organization. See, sometimes people don't really understand another person's circumstances until they find themselves in them. And then when you find yourself in a set of circumstances, then you'll have empathy. But outside of that, you become judgmental, hard-hearted. So back to the article. It didn't end there. In 2022, the hospital sued Belk for the roughly $6,000 he still owed for prostate cancer care. Belk said he knew he couldn't win in court, so he agreed to pay off the debt, which has grown to around $8,000 with interest. Belk said he was paying $100 a month to whittle it down and keep bill collectors off. We're all doing that. We all owe money. We all can't afford unless you're independently wealthy, unless you have an inheritance someplace. But the average person, like myself, we have to make arrangements, pay some here, pay some there. especially with utility companies. If you're married and you have a family, or if you're just living with someone, bills are bills. And jobs don't pay enough money because they take the bulk of the money out in taxes. And if you work overtime, God forbid, they really want to punish you by taking huge chunks of your money away from you after you've worked 80 plus hours. Then they want to take the money from you. That's crazy. That makes no kind of sense. Now let's get back here. Americans owe at least $220 billion in medical debt, according to KFF, a nonprofit health policy research, polling, and news organization. The top 3 states for medical debt are South Dakota, where 18% of the population is affected, followed by Mississippi at 15%, and Belk's home state of North Carolina at 13%. KFF says, the burden of medical debt has contributed to financial anxiety among voters and has become an issue in the 2024 presidential campaign. Why? Why is it such an issue in the 2024 campaign? Help people who need help. That's how you solve problems. If people need help, you don't condemn them, you don't judge them, you don't talk about them, you don't put them down. During the Great Depression, John D. Rockefeller, regardless of what you think about him or his politics, John D. Rockefeller built the Rockefeller Tower. 30,000 men were able to feed and take care of their families during the Great Depression. You talk about the late Al Capone, regardless of what his activities were, but during the Depression, he fed, clothed, and housed people. See, people overlook the good that a lot of people do in this world. You do not beat somebody down because they're having it hard. You don't sneerly talk about them. There are a lot of rich people in this world who do great things philanthropically, but they don't talk about them because they don't want the publicity. But they're doing all kinds of wonderful things behind the scenes to help those who cannot help themselves. Then you got the other group who likes to marginalize people, talk about people, put people down, judge people. I'm talking about, and they're rich people because they can't afford something. Now I've read that, so let me go on here. Medical debt is a problem that is uniquely American, said Bernita Hines, senior attorney at the National Consumer Law Center, a nonprofit organization and an expert on the topic. Even if you have insurance, if you have chronic health conditions that require you to interface more often with the healthcare system, you are putting yourself at greater risk for medical debt every single time you make an appointment. Well, sometimes you just got to make that appointment. And sometimes you just got to go into debt and do what you have to do. Do not neglect your health because somebody is concerned that you can't afford. The reason why a lot of people go into politics because they have great health insurance coverage. The same health coverage that they want to deny the citizens that they claim they want to help. Asked about Bilk's situation, a spokesperson for Atrium Health said, it has used litigation against patients as a last resort. Bilk signed both the deed of trust and the other judgment voluntarily, the spokesman said, and presumably on the advice of his attorney. The Atrium spokesman also provided a statement saying, quote, as the lending nonprofit health system in the Southeast, Atrium Health works to ensure access to high quality care for everyone in each community we're privileged to serve. For us, there are no profits, just outcomes, in the form of improving health, elevating hope, and advancing healing for all. Almost 18% of our nation's gross domestic product goes to health care, far more than other developed countries, with roughly 1/3 of those dollars spent on hospital care, according to National Health Expenditures data. With costs so elevated, it's no surprise that medical expenses are a leading cause of bankruptcy in the United States. According to a 2019 study published in the American Journal of Public Health, residents of southeastern states have been especially hit hard by medical debt because their state governments have often blocked the expansion of Medicaid, and that is true. It's blocked. And who's doing the blocking? Republicans. Who is trying to stop people from getting adequate health care? Republicans. Who howls and screams and cries about inflation? Republicans, and they create it. But they don't have any problem giving billionaires and trillionaires tax breaks over and over and over and over again. Nonprofit hospitals are supposed to offer financial assistance programs to patients who can't afford care, according to a provision of the Affordable Care Act. But patients don't always receive information about these programs, experts say. That's what Obamacare was created for. Now it's called the Affordable Care Act. If you can't afford to pay, then nonprofit organizations are supposed to help you anyway. Compounding the challenge posed by medical debt is the fact that hospital or healthcare bills are hard to decipher and often incorrect, according to Cynthia Fisher, founder of patientsrightsadvocate.org. If you're having problems paying your bills medically, go to patientsrightsadvocate.org. That's patientsrightsadvocate.org. A nonprofit seeking transparency in healthcare prices, Fisher's organization roughly analyzes patients' records and told NBC News, quote, "We have not yet had an accurate bill," close quote. You know, a friend of mine right now who's recovering from a serious illness, they tried to get him to sign fraudulent documents. It's called double dipping. They wanted him to sign fraudulent documents stating that he owed the hospital money for services rendered, knowing that the medical coverage was going to cover it. Well, see, by me being a law student on the road to becoming a criminal defense attorney, you know I gave him the best advice possible. See, some of y'all hate what I talk about on this channel, but you still come on here anyway. For those of you that like this channel and support this channel, if you like it, subscribe to it. Tyrone Bowman Live. So the comments in the section, yeah, I see them, but I don't pay them any mind. I keep talking. So now let's go on to the rest of this article. A new study by the Commonwealth Fund, an independent research organization focusing on healthcare, confirmed that inaccurate bills are a big problem. Some 45% of U.S. adults say they've received a medical bill that they were surprised was not covered by their insurance. The research found many of those polled did not change the bills, the report said, but 38% of those who questioned them had their bills reduced or eliminated. Even when bills are accurate, prices can vary significantly for the same service in the same hospital. Fisher's organization found, for example, last year, patientsrightsadvocate.org studied cost of 5 common services, including appendectomies, cesarean sections, and cataract surgery at hospitals in 10 states. The research found, and listen, appendectomy in the same hospital can cost as much as 32 times on the upper end what that facility's lowest cost is for the service. Cataract surgery can cost 9 times and cesareans 8 times the lowest cost at the same facility. The average variation in price across the procedures at the same hospital was almost 11 times the research estimate or determined. In 2023, Darcy Gull, 52, underwent emergency hernia surgery. She had health insurance with a marketplace plan, but later that year received a $40,000 bill from the hospital for the amount her plan did not cover. Gull, who had multiple sclerosis, lives in Adine, North Carolina, a rural community just south of Greenville. She said she is paying approximately $123 a month on the bill. "I didn't ask to have a hernia," she said. "I used to be an elementary school teacher and have not had a lot of money in recent years." Wow. And they have a picture of the former school teacher. You know, I'm not going to put a picture up there like that. I'm not going to do that to her. But teachers, okay. Gull's view is confirmed by 2021 research from the Urban Institute, which found that 3 of the top U.S. counties with residents holding medical debt were in North Carolina. In those counties, more than 40% of residents carried medical debt versus 13.9% nationwide, the study said. North Carolina residents shoulder high amounts of medical debt because recent mergers among hospitals in the same state have curtailed competition among facilities. And Harold Miller, President and CEO of the Center for Healthcare Quality and Payment Reform, as hospitals consolidate, he said their increased market power drives up the cost of care, especially in rural areas. When hospitals merge, prices go up, he said. So why do you pass it on to patients who are sick? Find a way to deal with it. According to the burden are North Carolina laws allowing hospitals to sue patients for medical debts with legal judgments lasting up to 20 years. What kind of dumb law is that? This is the reason why I bring commentary. What kind of stupid, idiotic, insidious law is that? Guaranteed, look into the law and you will find that the bill was authored and written by some Republican. Straight up. In addition, those judgments can carry 8% interest rates and can automatically act as liens against patients' homes. Well, I wouldn't own a home in North Carolina, that's for sure. I'm getting rid of it. When you have medical problems, there's a whole cascade of consequences, said Ed Bolts, a lawyer who represents North Carolina patients being sued for medical debt. It takes people who have been on the knife's edge and pushes them over. Wow. People end up losing their homes. From January 2017 through June 2022, North Carolina hospitals sued 7,517 patients and their family members to collect medical debt, according to a recent study by Duke University School of Law Facility and North Carolina's Office of State Treasurer. Many of the legal actions resulted in default judgments in state district courts. Interest charges and other added fees accounted for astounding 35% of the $557.3 million in total judgments owed by patients. Part of what we're seeing is a real court failure where inaccurate bills are automatically compounding themselves and wreaking financial havoc on patients, said Barack Richmond, visiting professor of law at George Washington University Law School and a researcher on the study. Another problem for patients who are being pursued is One Belt experience, said Sarah Steinberg Green, a professor at Duke Law and one of the study's researchers. A lot of these people were eligible for charity care and didn't get it, she said. In mid-August, North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper, a Democrat, had said 99 of the state's eligible hospitals had signed on to a medical debt relief program he recently initiated. The hospitals, particularly in the program, including the largest system in the state, agreed to forgive medical debts dating back to January 1, 2014 for Medicaid beneficiaries, as well as medical debt considered uncollectible for patients whose income is at or below at least 350% of the federal poverty level. Past medical debt that exceeds 5% of a person's annual income will also be relieved under the program. Democratic presidential candidate Kamala Harris praised the North Carolina program when she held a rally in the state in July. Why would it take a Democrat to get this done? Unfortunately, Belk said the program will not help. Gold said she's not yet determined whether it will affect her. In June, the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau proposed a rule that would remove medical debt from most consumers' credit report, aiming to solve the problem of lower scores associated with the obligations. Almost $50 billion in medical debt would be removed under the bill. Haynes of the National Consumer Law Center said many states aren't waiting for the federal government to address the medical debt burden among their residents. Delaware recently passed a law prohibiting interest and late fees on medical debt, and Maryland requires hospitals to reimburse patients who are eligible for financial assistance but did not receive it. In 2023, Oregon passed a law requiring patients to be screened for financial assistance if they owe more than $500. There's a lot of interest in resolving the medical debt crisis, Haynes said. A lot of states have been tackling medical debt and are going far beyond what the federal government is doing. Belk is hopeful that Americans everywhere will benefit from people speaking out about medical debt. This is a national problem. People are getting millions and millions of these bills, he said. They're making people's lives hell. I'll probably be paying this into the afterlife. Quote, close quote. If you like this channel, subscribe to it. Tyrone Bowman Live. Thank you for watching. Never surrender. Never quit.